The Galaxy S10e, it's not a new phone. In fact, it's pretty old for its age. It's over 3 years old and it came out in 2019 along with its bigger brothers, the S10 and the S10 Plus. But because of its form factor and its size, it got pretty overshadowed by the S10 and mainly the S10 Plus. But that isn't to say it's just gonna be another one of those like wannabe flagships. It is a flagship everywhere, but it has a few tricks up its sleeve. Now yes, it's a small phone, and yes, you don't have a lot of screen real estate to work with, but that in itself lies as a key advantage for it to be a supremely comfortable phone. And you can comfortably use it one-handed, and you don't really have to worry about putting a bulky, big metal and glass sandwich into your pocket, but you can just leave it casual. You can use your front pocket or your shirt pocket even. It is pretty small and easy to use as a one-handed form factor, and for the most part, it's actually well balanced and lightweight as well. So just like any other Samsung flagship, it's just the pure polish and finishes over things like that that actually make it something special and something that you want to own for years. Along with this, the rounded edges and corners just sit flush on your hand, making you want to use this phone really easily and comfortably for long hours, unlike some other shiver blades that I've seen around the internet. Now, the build here is actually a metal and glass sandwich just like any other smartphone, although it does have the slight disadvantage of being prone to fingerprints because of the fact that it's glossy. And also the fact that I've noticed that it's really thin and it's pretty good and feels premium in the hand. And it isn't premium. Now, there is a reason that I said feels premium instead of isn't premium, because of the fact that this Gorilla Glass 5 from 2019 has actually made me rethink of how Gorilla Glass worked back then. Because let's be honest, the Gorilla Glass Victus or Gorilla Glass 6 that actually is being used in current smartphones, well, they're actually being durability tested a lot well than I actually think it is. Because this Gorilla Glass 5 actually ended up with too many cracks than I could actually keep count of. Like, I just had like minor drops, and let me tell you, I've had better and farther drops than that I haven't had like a single crack, but then like a small minor drop just got me like a lot of things cracking on the back, so I had to replace the back glass again. But one small advantage over here is that unlike iPhones, which cost almost half its price, or maybe even sometimes 3/4 of the phone's price to actually change the back glass, Samsung's one actually took me an easy $10 repair, although it did break my IP68 seals, and that's why I'm not going to be doing an IP68 water test over here. But from what I can say is that it was a decent repair and everything actually worked, and it kind of reminded me of the same glossy finish, even though I hated it or I didn't hate it. But overall to say is that back glass not really that great, although it is very prone to scratches. Now, what isn't really unpredictable or fragile like the back glass is this phone's performance. And now look, this Snapdragon 855, yes, I did manage to get an American version, isn't really that big of a thing compared to the Snapdragon 888 or even the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. And yes, that is true. But that isn't to say it performs really badly and I've got like sluggish performance. Yes, there are hiccups once in a while, but I don't really notice them when I play games or do something that is really like demanding. And it's more of like a byproduct of what happens when you just constantly switch apps and never really clear your memory. So in that case, yes, it does have a little hiccups, but it performs something close to a newer 700 series Snapdragon or something like a Dimensity from MediaTek or something like that. Because from my perspective, it's enough of a chipset for you to like game on and for you to multitask. And yes, it does kind of take a big heavy load whenever like you multitask a lot, or mostly the fact that it just starts heating up a lot once you open the camera for more than an hour or so. So in those cases, yes, the chipset is not really efficient with like keeping the phone cool, as well as battery drains, because this chipset, whenever the camera is turned on, I notice significant battery drains, which is pretty normal. But the fact that the battery drains are so unexpected, like sometimes when I just use the viewfinder to search for things, it takes up like 1 or 2%, and few more hours I just leave the viewfinder like it should be, and I expect something like a 5% drop. It goes down to 20% drop and it shuts down. So I think maybe that's just a problem on my side, but the problem is the fact that the chipset is pretty getting old, and 7 nanometers is something, again, belonging to a 700 series chipset again. So looking on that fact, this is just like an okay chipset for 2021 or 2022 for that case. But yeah, it's not really keeping up great, and it's just like okay enough. Now for the button section, we got the volume rocker and the controversial Bixby button on one side. Now the volume rocker, both of these, and the Bixby button, both very clicky and very nice. But although I gotta address some points onto Bixby, because I never hated Bixby at the start, because I never use assistants. Because of the fact that, okay, I'm using too many becauses over here, but because of the fact that you already have a phone that you're reaching with your hand, and it's not some kind of like a smart speaker that's actually sitting on the other side of the room, I don't really believe in the fact that you need to use an assistant on your phone, unless and otherwise you have smart things or Google Home or Amazon Alexa and the whole smart ecosystem thing going on, and that in that case, yes. But I don't really believe in how these assistants work unless you want to make YouTube shorts. And that way, yes. But I have no hatred towards Bixby. At least I had, because I tried Bixby just for the sake of this video. I hadn't touched Bixby in 2 years on this phone. And now that I've used it, I see why people have a problem with it. First up, when I ask Bixby questions from the internet, it doesn't really respond to things as with that snappy feeling that you get from Google Assistant or Alexa. And Alexa is actually even slower than Google Assistant, but both feel really responsive. And I just downgrade to Bixby and it doesn't really feel nice. Good thing that I actually have Google Assistant on this once in a while, whenever, or like some blue moon, I actually use an assistant, because Bixby really messed up things for me. And then I read online of the fact that this is actually device only. And so I'm like, okay, if it's device only, whenever I don't have mobile data, and I did try that once, and it shows me try connecting to the internet. For me, to make a phone call, a direct phone call, I need internet. And so I gave up on Bixby. But although I do use the Bixby button every day, and that's because you can actually remap the Bixby button to any app you want. Although any one feature like double click or one click either should for sure enable Bixby. So I have double tap enabled for WhatsApp, or sometimes even Snapchat, some kind of like those kind of apps. So now Bixby as an AI assistant, not really great, but Bixby button is. But maybe Samsung just thought Bixby as an AI was good and the Bixby button wasn't, because they realized something pretty quickly and removed it. RIP Bixby button. I think I will be missing it on other phones unless Sony actually helps it to remap its Google Assistant button. Yeah, I'll be making another video if I ever buy Sony. And as I was talking, on the other side we have a power button and a fingerprint sensor, embedded one, which means yes, we have a physical fingerprint sensor. And now you might think that this is kind of like a cheap thing to do, because like clearly under display fingerprint scanners are everywhere. Well, that wasn't the case in 2019 again, because of the fact that this was at the start of 2019. The underscreen cool ultrasonic fingerprint scanners and ultrasonic fingerprint scanners are the ones that Samsung uses only on their flagships, and they don't use optical. At least they didn't use optical fingerprint scan sensors until 2020 for their cheaper variants. But I mean, like, anyways, this is actually really good, and you will know why this is actually better than the ultrasonic ones in a few moments, because it has some pretty neat tricks up its sleeve. Now, this fingerprint sensor, yes, it acted like a power button as well, and you had to click or you just keep your finger in there and you're securely unlocked. And that's what iPhone people have been asking for the past 2 years, I guess, since COVID was a thing. Now, coming back to the S10e, this small thing has a miraculous of like a genius idea, which is a gimmick that's actually usable, that's actually useful. Now, check this out, all right? So I have a clear phone, I have a clear screen, I have a clear thing. I just want to look at notifications, but I gotta touch the phone to see my notifications if I'm the lock screen. So I gotta unlock it, and I keep my thumb near the fingerprint sensor. Boom, I'm unlocked, nice. Now I gotta pull down the notification shadow, and all I need to do is this. Yep, I just gotta do that. Look at my notifications. If I don't want to mess up with anything, just scroll that back up, or just power off like that. Easy. Like look at that. That's just a genius idea. I can see it implemented in a lot of things. Yes, you can't really remap it anywhere, and you have to go into the settings and turn it on because it's not turned on by default. But this is such a genius idea. You can help it to like recognize different edges of the parts and help it for like scrolling down your feed. It makes sense on like a larger scale, but I think Samsung really didn't focus on this. They just saw this as some kind of like a bonus feature and compensated for the lack of an ultrasonic fingerprint scanner. But I think it's a stroke of genius. Like it makes sense. But anyways, it's not really there on any phones. On any phones on the planet that I've actually seen or read articles about or tested. It's not really there. So this is like a one-of-one feature, and this is pretty exclusive to S10e users only. And it's a pretty good feature. Like, come on, Samsung, bring this back. And so yes, it does have a fingerprint scanner embedded into the power button. And that might mistake you for thinking that this is an LCD screen. Well, in fact, my friends, you ain't getting an LCD screen for $750, or else whatever happened to the Note 20 is gonna happen to this thing, or it would have happened. Because this thing has an AMOLED, and that is still a very A-grade panel for 2022 standards. Because, like, let's be honest, even in 2019, Samsung was way in front of its competitors with using like these bright, vivid OLED panels with like smooth colors and like sharp, just sharp pixels that you can actually like see or count each pixel. The quality was great. But as for this phone, you have really good specs of 5.8-inch Full HD+, AMOLED, 60Hz, HDR10+, Gorilla Glass Victus panel, Gorilla Glass 5 panel. And if you just slowly move towards the top bezel, you have a tiny earpiece speaker right there that also acts as a stereo sound for a secondary speaker as well, so which means there's a down-firing speaker as well as that earpiece acting as a second one. And up top you also have the SIM card slot, which is not a hybrid slot because I have an American variant, which means it supports one SD card and a SIM card or a PSD card slot. You will truly be missed, but don't worry, we've got Sony on our back, at least unless they get out of the smartphone market, and then we don't have anything much other than these cheapo phones. And down bottom we have another RIP, which is a legendary headphone jack. Honestly, this thing is amazing. Like the mic that I'm recording right now, it's directly actually going into my phone, and my phone is an S10e, and that has a headphone jack, so I don't have to wiggle with dongles or anything. And especially I've found a lot of problems with USB-C headphones, which I'll be talking in another video, so subscribe if you want to. And along with that beloved headphone jack, we have an USB-C port, which enables for 15-watt fast charging, which is in quotation marks because it's the same 15-watt fast charging that Samsung has been using for years until they actually upgraded from 15 watts to 25 watts on their S20 series, and then these removed the charger box, yada yada yada. Now, speaking of charging, we're going to be getting to the battery and charging department over here, which means battery and charging. The battery is 31 milliamp hours and the charging is 15 watts. so it can be topped up for around like 1.5 to 2 hours, and the phone does sometimes really get hot. But apart from the phone, I have noticed another problem where the charger gets hot, and that is one of the reasons that my older charger actually broke, and this is like the second charger that I'm using, and it gets stupid amounts of hot that I can't actually handle it, and that has been seen as an issue by many as well. So I don't know if it's just like going for like certain models or certain units, but if you just put it onto like a single full quick top up, after an hour or so, this thing starts burning like hell. You can actually cook something on it. But anyways, this actually does get hot, although I haven't seen any significant damages to my phone, but rather I've actually broken one power brick because of this. So that is something that Samsung has to look into. But other than that, we also have wireless charging, which is also 15 watts, and also we have, I think, 10 or 5 watts of reverse wireless charging. And now this phone is over 3 years old, right? So it's actually ending its software updates with the OneUi 3, which means yes, it's still running Android 11 as of January 2022. But let's actually talk about OneUi 3, because I've got a lot of things to say about it. And it's actually risen into my very favorite thing. Like from the start, at least from the time when I actually used my J2, I really felt like TouchWiz or like Samsung software was just too buggy and like too monotonous, and it just looked real dull. It didn't have a lot of customization options. All the apps kind of looked wacky and really poor software support for real. But now I see why OneUi was really liked by many people, and OneUi was really good. It still is really good. As time actually went by, it matured and matured and matured. And some things from OneUi have actually been borrowed into Android 12 as well, which I've also made a video about, so you can maybe like, yeah. So what am I talking about over here? First up is Edge screen, and you might think of this from like that Galaxy Note Edge with that weird edge screen. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that there's like this small corner in the display where you can actually like fit some apps, or like you can take like a custom crop of like you can take like a custom crop screenshot, or sometimes you've got like music, and you can, if you forget a ruler, you got there as well too. So this is really like purely functional, and if you want to multitask, just drag and drop that anywhere. It'll show you options of like, if you drop it over here, it becomes like this. If you drop it over here, it'll become a split screen, and it handles split screen very well. Although Snapchat and Instagram are the ones that actually meddle with this, because Snapchat really doesn't function properly with its cameras, and Instagram doesn't support multitasking, and that is a really thing from Instagram. And another thing that I have to talk about OneUi is Samsung Galaxy Store. Now, Samsung Galaxy Store, from the start, I thought like, okay, it was just another like regular Galaxy Store with like weird third-party apps, and quickly I realized it went from that to being promoting like, hey Samsung users, we got Fortnite over here, let's play Fortnite. And from that, I just covered like a whole new world of like customization. Now, what kind of customization I'm talking about? Well, this is an AMOLED screen, right? So it supports always on displays, AODs. So you've got AODs, faces, skins, and like GIFs and like pictures. And like there's a lot of like AOD changes as well. Like you can change the way your clock looks, and you can add images and GIFs and text. You can do like a whole lot of things with AODs. And not just AODs, you've got like wallpapers, especially like custom, like that cute Baymax wallpaper that I actually saw from MKBHD's video, where it just goes into the punch hole. And like those things blend really well, and that is also the reason why many people actually like this part, because Samsung, although they don't invest into themes or like customization like what Xiaomi does, but they actually like give this space to like a lot of people to actually develop their own custom themes and put it over here, and most of them really just look gorgeous. Like I have this like really nice icon pack right here. It just looks nice and stealth on my wallpaper, and you've got wallpapers, you've got everything from even screensavers. Like Samsung made screensavers for Android. And now, I'm not glorifying Samsung in any way. Like they clearly had some bloat, and once the bloat was once you see past the bloat, only then you actually get to see this. But there isn't really a lot of bloat as well over here. And Samsung has actually learned a lot from the previous mistakes of forcing people to use these Samsung services, which I still think is really bad. Like, Samsung have clearly mistook all of my steps for one day and never really considered the other day. So there are clearly a lot of issues and a lot of bugs, like I said, but this is actually the closest polished thing that you can actually get. And this has actually made me want this so much more than other stock Android options. Now, before going to the grand finale of the camera, just one thing I want to say over here is that I have another irritation with Face Unlock over here. And yes, this was the series where you would just show an image and it would be folded into showing the fact that this was your image and it would unlock. Yes, the S10 series was that, and I'm not really blaming the S10 series for that, because clearly Face ID is king, whatever you say or not, but it's just not good for masks, and that's what it's being criticized for. But over here, when I want to use something at home, I always depend on this to actually take my face correctly, but most of the time it does fail, and whenever like I test it, it works well now. It works well at that time. So weird lighting doesn't really work with Samsung, and it's always been a hassle to use Face Unlock. So please issue some proper updates on Face Unlock. But as long as I have fingerprint sensor going on, I'm fine. Woo! Now it's the exciting part, the cameras. Now Samsung has been like king of cameras for a long time, at least somewhat a long time, and everybody's been praising Samsung's cameras for a long time, at least up until like the S10 series. It's where the S20 Ultra made the blunders, but then S21 gained back some territory. But let's talk about the S10e. So now the S10e, well, it clearly isn't the premium of the others, because technically it actually loses from one of the camera as the telephoto camera. I'm just happy that it actually didn't make a move like the OnePlus 7, where it had a telephoto camera and a wide angle camera, which wasn't really nice. Whereas this has like the proper option of having an ultra wide camera and then a wide angle camera, two very high quality sensors and very high quality image processing as well. So you know what to expect over here. Really good high definition and like high dynamic range, at least from the back cameras. Like the back cameras, they clearly speak quality, they shout quality so much. And like the back cameras, they're able to shoot up to UHD 60 FPS, which is plenty. That's plenty enough to make a YouTube video as well. So although again, I have complaints with the selfie camera. Well, the selfie camera, it's just sufficient. It's also a 12 megapixel punch hole, but it's just sufficient enough because of the fact that it's not wide enough, and also the dynamic range is pretty poor, and it always like blows out everything on the background whenever you take a picture on like harsh lighting. Now apart from like the camera quality, we're going to be talking about something else like camera modes in OneUi. This does not include director's view, which was actually a new add into OneUi 3 for the Galaxy S21 series, but sadly I don't have director's view on my phone. At least my phone doesn't support it or something. But from what I can say is that there is an underrated thing over here. There's a seriously underrated feature over here: single take. Now, single take is just this like really great feature where you hold your phone for 10 seconds in front of your subject, maybe change a bit of an angles, or your subject like just changes poses or something like that. Hold your phone for 10 seconds, wait for the AI to process, because the AI does take time to process, and look at the results. Even if you take like a really bad photo, it's just gonna make things look good, and it's gonna give you like various options and like crown these specific options as like whichever the best photo and how to like make things proper. Now, most of the times it's the AI's choice, so sometimes we don't want to do that. We want to have manual control on what we have to do. Yes, you have pro video for that and pro mode for that, but the single take is all about like how people just want to shoot something for 10 minutes and extract a lot of content out of that and post it on social media or something, because the AI actually knows like what filters, and sometimes it even adds something like filters and music in the back and makes it into like a slow-mo as well as a hyperlapse, or just the same plain video with added stabilization. It just looks neat and clean, and it's really coming in handy for people who want to just snap a photo like that and post it on social media. And for the other features, well, there's not really a lot to talk about except for portrait mode. Well, yes, the portrait mode on the front, yes, it doesn't look like it's gonna take a lot of edges on the viewfinder. After you've taken a photo, it realizes what's in focus and what's supposed to be out of focus, and it clears up all of that. It looks kind of meh. What is the king feature over here? Well, you can actually change the background of like how your bokeh wants to look and like your color profiles after you've taken the picture. Now, I think something kind of like this feature is actually there in iOS, but that's actually there on the viewfinder before you click the picture. This is after, and you can change this as much as you want, unless you actually send it to another person who doesn't have a Samsung phone or also has a Samsung phone, but you send them through WhatsApp, so they can't really meddle with the features. But you can actually just change, and you can change the intensity levels and the brightness levels. It's like a whole big thing, but it just gives you more control and makes you look more good. Like, just look at this picture. I can change this into this, and this, and it's still the same picture. And there's also another thing called super slow-mo, which is another heavily underrated feature, but I let it stay underrated still because of the fact that it's a half-baked idea. Unlike, it's a really cool idea of like slow-moing some part of the video, but then it's capped at 720p, and as the day goes by it gets more grainier and grainier, and shooting a lot with that kind of gets you frustrated because it's only something like 5 seconds. And slow-mo and hyperlapse are fine. Night mode is fine as well, not really that I'd say like the ultra wide is underwhelming, but normal night mode is pretty okay. And super steady, well, if you're wanting stabilization at all costs, even if this footage is pretty grainy, well, you've got super steady for that. And that's it, my friends. Now this obviously raises the question of why am I talking about a 3-year-old smartphone today? Like, clearly this smartphone is outdated from everything of its counterparts, and this smartphone clearly you're not supposed to buy right now. This is just like something of a pleading to Samsung of bringing back the E series of smartphones, even though there was only one smartphone of this case, because of the fact that compact flagships, well, they're getting a little bit rare now. They came in like 2020 and 2021 as something like a boon, but now they're being taken away. Like, clearly the last Android competitor to actually have a compact flagship in 2021 was Asus with their Asus Zenfone 8. But then again, that wasn't actually a clear-cut balanced flagship like this one. And iPhone's compact series, well, I don't even know if there's going to be an iPhone 14 mini this year because of the fact that Apple's not wanting to make another one. Maybe because of demand, maybe because of supply shortages. And the last proper series I've actually known, that was the Sony compact series, but then Sony revamped their whole product. And now, yes, the 5 series looks like another like trimmed down shorter version. It's not really how the compact series worked. So that just brings in the question that if actually somebody can tailor towards these kind of like a compact flagships idea and just roll over on it for like 2 years or so, let's see how well it goes, and then supply depending on it, because a lot of people are starving over here for compact Android options, which aren't cheap and which shouldn't really have a lot of compromises. Like, you could see from what Asus did that they didn't have to compromise a lot. The Zenfone 8, it had ultra specs, but until Samsung brings something like that to the table. This is Mishras Kalyan, and thank you guys for watching this video. Hope to meet you soon again, and until then, this is yours truly.